Do you know the value of God's open arms? That's what we're looking at today. Isn't it the most wonderful thing in the world to arrive somewhere and the people you're visiting welcome you with open arms and give you a big hug? Or do you recall doing something bad when you were a kid only to be welcomed into your parents' arms as forgiveness was offered and all was well with the world once again? Open arms from someone who loves us is healing at the very least. So let's look at God's open arms. We know the story of the prodigal son who took his inheritance, squandered it, came to his senses, and returned home. If you recall, this son was a bit nervous to return after how he had treated his father's generous gift. He was willing to become a servant in his father's house. But the father had different plans, we know, to receive him with welcome arms and prepare a feast. Memorable story for sure. Just before that, in Luke 15, we read the story of the lost sheep that the shepherd pursued and found. It says he joyfully put the sheep on his shoulders and returned it to the flock. And then he called for everyone to come and rejoice with him because his lost sheep was found. The shepherd's arms are open to scoop up wandering sheep with great pleasure. There are studies done about arm language, and crossed arms often indicate lots of things, which can be anger, defensiveness, or even anxiety. Those are not the arms of God. He's not angry at us, ever, only angry at sin. He never has to defend himself. He's God, and anxiety is not a word associated with God at all. But open arms, well, they're associated with victory. Think about it. When your team scores, arms go up and open wide with a big exclamation of a yes. Open arms are a symbol of giving as well. Maybe you know the verse in Matthew 6 where we're told if we seek his kingdom first, all these things will be given to us. It's in that section of the chapter about not worrying because worrying doesn't accomplish anything. We are instead told to observe the flowers of the field and how they grow. And we're told that if God clothes the flowers of the field, how much more will he clothe us and give us drink and everything we need? His arms are completely thrown open when we seek him first, and they're open to give, and this knowledge erases the worry of tomorrow. We see another example of the open arms of God when Jesus feeds the 5,000. He asked his followers to open their arms and gather, and it says Jesus distributed the food and there was more than enough for everyone. Then later, Jesus talks about himself being the bread of life, and whoever comes to him, he will never drive away. Isn't that awesome? His arms are open. And it says it's God's will that everyone who looks to the Son and believes in him will have eternal life from the Father's arms. Even Jesus' arms on the cross, open for nailing and hanging there, seemingly helpless to do anything at all, speak volumes and do everything we need as they're open there for us. It's a symbol of being welcome to come, to receive salvation. Back to welcome arms. From the time our kids are tiny, they desire the welcoming arms of parents. They run to them when they're hurt. They find comfort in them and peace when they're sleepy. They hang on to them when they're afraid, and they're safe in them when they're tired and cannot walk. Our arms definitely get tired from the lifts, the holding. Moms often prop up pillows under their arms when they're feeding their babies. Dads are tired at night from lifting little kids to their shoulders. But God's arms are never tired, and they're always open and welcoming. Let me read you this poem. It says, and the table will be wide, and the welcome will be wide, and the arms will open wide to gather us in, and our hearts will open wide to receive. We will come as children who trust there's enough, and we will come unhindered and free. And our aching will be met with bread, and our sorrow will be met with wine. And we will open our hands to the feast without shame, and we will turn toward each other without fear. We will give up our appetite for despair, and we will taste and know of delight. We will become bread for a hungering world, and we will become drink for those who thirst, and the blessed will become the blessing. That's by Jan Richardson, The Open Arms of God.